Well, part of the exaltation, the glorification of Jesus, is not just his death, but his resurrection. And then the subsequent appearances.
Yep, that's
that
it.
confirm that our faith is not based on wishful thinking, Bill?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. And John makes that really clear here.
Yeah. Now, so how does he do that?
A couple of things. The first thing is the physicality of what's going on.
Yeah.
There are people, Jesus is being touched, he's eating, and all that sort of stuff. All the Gospels stress the physicality of Jesus. It wasn't a mirage. It wasn't a ghost. Ghosts don't eat. There's a whole bunch of stuff that's going on to show that this is a bodily resurrection, and so that's really important. John has his kind of a special contribution, though. It happens right there in the very first verse of John chapter 20, where he tells us that it's early on the first day of the week while it was still dark. So if you think about where did the Gospel start? Right at the very beginning of the Gospel. It started at creation, and then it started with a week. And so it's almost like we've got a second week starting now. And so I think John is hinting that we're moving from creation to new creation.
Right.
That the resurrection is the first fruits of God's new creation plan. And that will also come because Jesus will breathe his spirit into the disciples as breath was breathed into Adam. And so the disciples become the first new men of the new creation as they're there. So you've got physicality, you've got new creation, and I think a couple of sessions back we focused in particularly on, let me find it, John 20 verse 17, where Mary's holding on to Jesus because she doesn't want him to go. He says, "Don't worry, I'm not going anywhere, not for a while. Go instead to my brothers and tell them I'm ascending to my Father and your Father, to my God and your God." And so at no point through the first half of the Gospel, or before this, has Jesus encouraged the disciples to call God their Father. In fact, he's the one who's referred to Father, but now he's saying, you have that privilege.
Right.
So it's relationship. So objective reality, physicality, super historical Bible reality, new creation, but then this most intimate personal relationship comes into play as a result of the resurrection. Now, lots more could be said, but
Yes. What about just quickly on Thomas? I mean, he, the man with the greatest doubts, makes the greatest declaration of Jesus in all the Gospels. I think, "My Lord and my God,"
totally, my Lord and my
and then
God.
affirmed by Jesus at the end. What do you make of that?
Oh, exactly that. I think Thomas is an interesting character. He's one of a number of characters that occur 3 times in John.
Yeah.
Nicodemus is another, Philip's another, so you can kind of trace their biography on the way through. Thomas is a pragmatist and a realist.
Yeah,
I think his last words back in John 11 was, well, he's going to die, so we might as well go and die with him, you know. So,
or in 14, I don't know the way to go. I don't know how to get there.
That's right. Yeah. So so he's a plain speaking guy. So I think he speaks for a lot of us. He says, unless I'll do it. And so I'm grateful for Thomas.
Yeah,
right? And because he makes this thing, but then he doesn't. He's not mucking around once he knows, right? He's my Lord and my God. He's down on his knees.
The pendulum swings from
bam.
the greatest expression of doubt to the greatest
expression of belief. Yeah. And so I guess the other point is in it for us though, because Jesus makes the point after that. Because you've seen me, you've believed. Then he goes on to say, blessed are those who have not seen and have not believed. Now, people often think Jesus is criticising Thomas's belief there. I just think he's stating as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
But what he's saying is we can be as blessed as Thomas, even though we won't have that experience. There's no difference between our experience of belief in Jesus and the experience of the original disciples who saw him.
So you don't think the rather, I don't know how it's translated in the original off the top of my head.
Yeah.
The blessed rather those. Is there something
there's
purer
there's
about taking
believed,
God
at his word? I don't buy that, because I think that buys into a whole narrative through the gospel where John is negative about belief based on signs and things.
Yeah.
Whereas I think John's quite positive, because he says in John 20:31, I've given you these signs so that you may believe.
So what about? We haven't had any conflict yet. It's good. But in John 4, remember he said, "You believe, you won't believe unless you see." And in that, in John, is it chapter 4?
And I think he means that absolutely. In other words, you've got to see the signs. That is, understand what the signs are talking about.
Right.
So I don't think he's criticising the fact they're waiting for signs in order to believe.
Okay, right.
I think he's saying you're seeing signs, but you're actually not seeing them.
Right.
So unless you see signs, you won't believe. So we could go into the Greek there, but that's a different. It's a different.
You'll
discussion.
win that case, whatever happens.
But I'm on the minority view here. I've got to say.
You're the minority view. I would be the majority.
You're the majority view here. So
what do we like to say? Majority wins.
People tend to see a suspicion about faith based on signs. I think that's reacting to.
I see. You mean within the Gospels or post?
Within the Gospel, but I think people are suspicious in the Gospel because of what's happened post the Gospel.
Doesn't he also say that if you don't believe, then at least believe on the
signs?
It's kind of like almost look. At the very least, believe for these reasons. But they are there. They are the clear appointed testimony.
He wants full or belief, but in the end, God is humble enough, I think, to accept our belief no matter what it's based on.
Absolutely.
And He'll lead us into the fullness of that belief by His Spirit.
That's exactly right. Weak faith, strong faith, just have faith. Keep trusting in Jesus, that He is the Son of God. By believing you may have life.
That's it.